Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look here at the Desktop Army Alice Gear Aegis Sitara Kaneshiya version Ganesha. Quite a long name, and this was actually sent to me by P-Cube. Now, P-Cube is the games publisher working together with Pyramid, the games developer that's come out with the new Alice Gear Aegis game, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that here at the start. So the new game is called Concerto of Simulatrix, and it's available for PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. And thanks to PQ, we've got 3 copies of the game that we're going to give away via digital download to 3 of you guys today. So stay tuned later in the video. I'll let you guys know how you can enter to win a free copy of this game. And the game looks like a lot of fun. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of the characters in the form of the plastic model kits, so the different Alice Gear Aegis model kits that come out in the Megami Device line from Kotobukiya. But the game's just recently been released, so if any of you guys have checked it out, or if you're interested, let me know your thoughts. What do you think about how it's looking so far? And again, a big thank you to P-Cube for sending out this figure for us to check out today, and for providing 3 copies of the game for you guys. So let's get into the review of the figure, and then we'll talk about the giveaway. Alright, so taking a look around the box art here real quick before we open it up, we got some really cool artwork here of the Desktop Army version, kind of the SD sort of chibi version of Sitara Kaneshiya right there, but then we've got some photographs of the actual kit, and I want to say kit figure as in it's a figure that you do have to put together, but it's not a model kit by any means. If you guys are unfamiliar with the Desktop Army line, here on the back, another photograph there, some information there in Japanese, and on the side of the box, a look at the main figure and everything that you have included in there. Going to be very similar to what you get like with the model kit version of this. If you guys have not seen my review of the model kit version, you can check that out after watching this one, of course. But let's go ahead and pop it open. And one thing you may notice is that this box is busting at the seams. It is very full, and there is going to be quite a lot of assembly required. And as I said, it is basically a figure. I think these actually qualify as candy toys, essentially, but it is definitely going to be a lot of stuff to put together here. Let me just do a quick count of all these runners. So that's 20 runners right there, plus these, which are going to be like our stand parts, it looks like, and the instructions. We've got a couple other little smaller runners right here for a couple other little attachment pieces, so add those if you want. And then our main figure is completely assembled. So it's just going to basically be all of the equipment that we need to put together, the equipment and the weapons and everything. So here is the Sitara Kaneshiya, and then we have her headdress and other stuff that's going to be separate. You have a nice plastic covering there for the hair. You can see, and we'll take a closer look at everything, of course, once I have this all put together. And an option head in here as well. That has the animal ears on top and different face. And I assume the hair is swappable, so if you did want to have this face on your figure there, you can swap that out and you can have the headdress with this kind of smiling face instead. I believe those are going to be our only 2 face options, but let me go ahead and get through everything, put all this together, and then we can take a proper look at it. Alright, so now that everything is all put together, let's take another closer look here at this. So you have the tail option piece here at the back, and you will have a couple of noticeable nub marks on this. I will say overall, everywhere where there was pre-painting on the parts, the nub placement on them was generally pretty good, so that you're not going to have a lot of gate placements where there was pre-painting, like on these parts here for the headdress. That white part is painted on there for you, and some interesting kind of markings on the inside of those parts there at the back. This gold part here for the head, for example, the nub is placed like right on the top of there, so you're really not going to notice that much at all. So the gate placement and a number of the parts are also undergated as well, so that's all pretty good. But yes, the tail here on the back is just on a ball joint like that. You don't have any other options for that, and it doesn't have any other articulation other than just a base ball joint. And then up here at the head, all the headdress parts are all on there. The hair does move a little bit, that's attached via a ball joint there at the back as well. Between the top and bottom half of the torso, there is a little bit of movement there. There is technically a point of articulation. Basically, you're just going to get some rotation out of that. Not much movement actually forward and back there. The arms are on a ball joint. The elbow has a joint that allows for a pretty good bend there at the elbow. And we do not have any options for the hands, so you can't even remove those, and even if you could, you don't have anything else included other than just these holding hands, which is unfortunate. Kind of would have been cool if it would have come with some swappable hands that you could just put like a closed fist or an open hand or something on there. Would have been nice. Here at the hip, again, just a ball joint. It's actually a double ball joint, which depending on how you pose it makes for a pretty large gap there at the hips. That's pretty normal for the line. The knee just has a joint which gives you, again, a little bit more than 90 degrees, and then nothing here at the ankle. But you'll notice here at the back of the ankle, you have a couple of hard points right there. And that brings us to our first accessory. So you have these clear parts which can plug in here at the back of the foot. That just plugs in there like that, and you can adjust this. It's pretty tight, but you can adjust that up and down. That's just to help stand. It does stand okay on its own, but this is definitely going to help just to keep it balanced, just standing on its own, just to help support some of the weight, since the feet are quite small and the legs, especially in the hips, is actually not a very tight joint there. But aside from that, you do also have the stand. Now, this is two of the base plates put together. If you have just this figure just on its own, you probably don't need to connect both the base pieces together, but you can there if you want to. And then there's our articulated arm here for this, so you can bend here, here, here. You can rotate this at the base as well, and it is on like a little bit of a ratchet system. There's like a hexagonal or octagonal shape in there, but basically you can rotate that to anywhere that you want, and that is going to plug in either into her back or lower back. Now if the tail is there, then you're going to have to plug it into the upper back, which could be difficult just because the hair is kind of in the way. So if you want to plug this onto the base, probably best to just remove the tail off there, and this can be just plugged into there like so, and works perfectly fine. Now let's take a look at her accessories here. Here is the lance or sword weapon. It's pretty nicely detailed. It doesn't have the clear green parts like the Megami Device version of it has. Of course, in general, it's much less detailed than the full model kit version, but doing at least a little bit of panel lining on this, maybe paint in a couple of the details here on the sword lance could be kind of cool. You do have one option part here for this part at the end. You can swap that off with this bit, which has your 3mm peg on there if you wanted to have this attached onto somewhere onto the figure, but otherwise it just looks like that. And our rifle also has a hard point here, which is removable. If you remove this piece, that just makes that a hollow circle right there, so it's kind of better to just leave that in, I think. But this also is not quite as nicely detailed in terms of its part separation, especially missing the clear colors there in the rifle, which is really nice in the Megami Device version. But it does still have the same functionality of this kind of claw part being able to fold down like that. You can actually bring that all the way to the front like this, some sort of like bayonet weapon. But if I remember correctly, this is actually just meant to be more of like a support, like a bipod of sorts, like for sniping, but I don't recall, so you guys can correct me on that. Then getting into the armor, so here's the leg armor, which just fits around her legs, so you just put this on the front, and this part closes around the back, and on her leg it's going to look something like that. Now the bottom part is on a ball joint. You can kind of move that around, although not really, just slightly tilting it forward, back, side to side, or rotating that part. Otherwise, this is not going to be any different. This is slightly different. The left and the right side, you can see it has this extra little bit of white armor there on the side. That's for one side, and the opposite side has it on the other side. And then the big star of the show, the rest of the equipment here is very cool. Now, I did have an issue with mine, I'll tell you guys. Right there, the peg actually broke, so be very careful with these pegs on the top. That broke off, and I had to do a little bit of surgery. Basically, I just cut that off, drilled through there, and then just used a piece of the runner and stuck that in there, super glued it from the bottom. And so I just made a replacement peg using the runner. So that's why it's always nice to keep your runners handy, because you might need a piece off of it to do a little fix. But otherwise, this again looks fantastic. The details on it, the color separation is really quite nice. You have some pre-painted details like this green rings here and here on top of the lower parts. So it's attached via a ball joint, so you can move that around a little bit. There is some movement here at the bottom. You can move that there and there. There's a ball joint again for this part, which just kind of popped off the ball joint, but assuming that that doesn't pop off, you can change the angle of that slightly. Not really too much that you can do here with this lower part other than that. This wing is not adjustable, although it does tend to pop off kind of easily, so I would maybe just recommend just gluing that onto there. But this top part, I'm just gonna kind of remove that off there so we can take a closer look at that. So here, these kind of front claws, you can kind of rotate this whole bit like that. This part can also rotate independently because you're meant to be able to rotate this around. And what you can do is just kind of bring that to the front, and then these claws can extend out. Now, not quite as much as like with the Megami Device version. So they're basically just going to spread out. I think with the Megami Device version, you can also adjust the angle of them in and out a little bit. And you can, as a whole with this one, like move that whole kind of hand in and out, but if I remember correctly, the fingers individually do. I could be mistaken, but anyway, you can spread those out for a pretty cool effect here with this claw bit, and it's really quite nice. Again, nicely detailed, even on the inside. I mean, you have some hollow gaps in there, but it looks pretty cool. And here, I guess, is where you could plug your weapons onto this hardpoint on the inside of this hand part there, like that, which is pretty awesome. And the last thing is that you have some option parts here for these connection pieces between like the kind of center part and the actual equipment. You have basically a shorter and a longer piece. So if you wanted these parts to be a little bit further out to the side, which would maybe give you a little bit more range of movement, you can use these slightly longer connection pieces. Here's the one for the top, for example, so you can see the difference. How this one's shorter and this is the longer one. So that might help for doing different poses. And speaking of which, why don't we just go ahead and try out some poses now. And while we're doing that, guys, and wrapping up the review, I'll again just say thank you to P-Cube for sending this out for me to check out and share with you guys. And also for the 3 copies of the game that they're going to be giving away to 3 lucky winners, 3 of you. So let me go ahead and now and tell you how you can enter that. Just leave a comment down in the comment section below. You can also subscribe and like the video while you're here. That would be greatly appreciated. But also just leave a comment and let me know who is your favorite Alice Gear Aegis character. I'm not familiar enough with the game to be able to tell you guys who is my favorite, just because there's probably some that I just don't even know offhand. Although, just speaking of the model kits, I do really like Sitara Kaneshiya, is probably my favorite, but there's a lot of really great ones. And if you guys would like to win a copy of the game, let me know your favorite character down in the comment section below. I'll wait about a week or so, and then I'll draw 3 random winners, and I'll be in touch with you guys, and then we'll sort out your codes so you guys can download the game and have fun with it. But anyway, guys, as far as the figure goes, it's great, and it certainly takes up a lot less shelf space on your shelf if you're wanting to display this, because the Kotobukiya version is quite large. This one's still pretty big as far as the desktop armies go, but if you guys have ever, put together any of the desktop army figures, of course they're relatively small. This is definitely going to be one of the larger ones. Even though it's smaller, it's still going to be a little bit of a pricey figure, but I think it is really nice. There's a lot of pre-painting on there. The detail on it is really nice. If you were to just go ahead and fill in some of the panel lines, maybe paint in a couple more of the details, throw some top coat on it, it's going to be a really, really good looking figure. And again, in this smaller scale and a different kind of style, with it being some sort of chibi style, as the desktop army line is. If that appeals to you, I would say definitely check it out. And if you are interested in doing so, you can at USA Gundam Store. The link will be down in the video description below. Got a lot of the different desktop army figures available for you guys there at USA Gundam Store. And then of course, paints, tools, supplies, and all sorts of other model kits to check out. So check that out. And as always, thank you guys all so much for checking out the video today. If you have any other further questions or comments related to this figure, of course, you can leave those down in the video description below. And as always, hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!